女佣一大早出来捡野果，而也就在她满载而归准备回家时，
Come on！
竟然有人明目张胆偷自家马匹。她没有放任盗贼离开的理由，拿起野果就向着男人扔去。被正中眉心后，男人摔下马来，女人仍没有停止手中的动作，直到她露出自己的面容。
Forgive me, Your Highness, I did not see you.
Your aim would suggest otherwise.
原来所谓的盗贼竟然是他们国家的王子。安妮已经做好了被降罪的打算，可却听王子说道
And speak of this to no one, and I shall be lenient.
他没有在这件事上追究，并且在离开之际给了安妮高出马匹价值好几倍的金币。王子离开后，跪在地上的安妮终于才长长舒了一口气，而她怎么也不会想到，这次与王子的意外邂逅也才只是他们缘分的开始。安妮本是一名贵族家的千金小姐，可因为父亲在一次外出时发生意外，一直看她不顺眼的继母成为了这个家发号施令的人。安妮之后的日子可想而知，如今她在家中的地位已经与女佣无异，和王子的相遇将会成为安妮改变人生的最大转折点。回去的她并没有将金币占为己有，前不久一位对她不错的佣人因为犯错被继母卖去了皇宫，她准备用这些钱将人给赎回来。而与此同时，王子也被皇家护卫队拦截在树林，原来他是趁着国王和王后不注意偷跑出来的。被抓住的王子并没有着急返回皇宫，而是带着队伍和那匹偷来的马来了距离自己和安妮相遇最近的庄园。继母殷勤地上前迎接。
To what do we owe this great honor?
I'm returning your horse, Baroness.
Is it missing?
Yes, I took the liberty of borrowing it this morning. I'm afraid I might have scared the wits out of one of your servants, a young lady with, quite a good arm, actually.
She is mute, my lord.
Really? She spoke quite forcefully.
没有寻得想要找的人，王子心情复杂地回了皇宫。刚抵达就听见有人在叫嚷
I demand you release him at once.
Get out of my way!
You dare raise your voice to a lady, sir?
安妮顿感不妙，因为早上被他看到过自己女佣的服装，假装贵族在这个国家可是重罪。王子只是觉得眼前之人有些熟悉，但并没有想起来这种感觉来源于哪里。原来早上他只顾着保护脸部，而等他露出面容后，安妮也是立马下跪，所以王子并没有看清楚她的面容，大致了解了事情的经过。得知安妮是在为罪犯求情，王子心中难免有些不悦，正准备下令驱赶，就听他这样说道
If you suffer your people to be ill-educated and their manners corrupted from infancy, and then punish them for those crimes to which their first education disposed them, but that you first make thieves and then punish them.
这样大不敬的话语让周围围观的贵族听得唏嘘不已，所有人都认为安妮会因为顶撞王子而被定罪。
Well, there you have it. Release him.
But sire...
I said release him.
安妮达成目的，为了身份不被揭穿，她急忙向着宫外走去，而王子就紧跟其后。
Have we met?
I do not believe so, Your Highness.
他几乎认得所有贵族，可脑中却唯独没有关于安妮的信息。慌乱间，他自称是外地过来看望表姐的。
Well then, pray, tell me your cousin's name so that I might call upon her to learn who you are. For anyone who can quote Thomas More is well worth the effort.
安妮转过头，没想到王子竟然也读过那本书。刚才那番言论，他就是引用了那本书中的文字，只是短暂停留。安妮便想到了自己如今的处境，再次向着出口而去。
A name. Any name.
无可奈何之下，安妮借用了生母嫁入贵族之前的名字。
There now. That wasn't so hard.
王后在这时出现，只是简单打了声招呼。再次回过头，安妮已然消失不见。为了能再次见到她，当晚王子找到母亲，提出开展一次盛大的皇室舞会，到那时召集所有的贵族前来。他相信这个办法肯定会让安妮再次现身。不明白儿子心中所想的王后点头答应下来。可他怎么也没料到，两人的再相见根本不用等到舞会的开始，因为安妮那句王国培养了盗贼，却回头又来惩罚盗贼。他开始关注起来位于最底层的百姓，而好巧不巧，王子选择的地方就是继母手下的地盘。
Good day, ladies.
安妮趁乱逃走，王子迟疑地询问
Were there just the two of you?
And the chicken, Your Highness.
他陷入了疑惑，总感觉刚才那道身影让他有些熟悉，仿佛是上天有意安排。安妮正在草原上放风筝，相隔老远，他就看到王子正朝着这边而来，紧忙找了位置躲藏，留玩伴一人在原地。
I'm looking for Signore Da Vinci. We're to go to the monastery together. Have you seen him?
安妮这位玩伴的身份很不简单，他是画家达芬奇的弟子，因为从小就是彼此的知心好友。对于安妮和王子之间发生的事儿，玩伴也是知道的。他装作无意地说到自己这2天一直和安妮在一起，并不知道老师去向。
You know her? please. I must find her. Where is she staying?
That she is staying with a cousin. The, Baroness Rodmilla de Ghent.
闻言，王子快马而去。
You horrible little snipe! And he is headed toward my house!
Then I suggest you run.
他明白这是玩伴给自己创造的机会。熟悉这里地形的安妮抄近路，提前回了家。
Your Highness, what an unexpected surprise.
终于赶在最后一刻穿好了贵族的衣服。王子表达了能再次见到安妮的喜悦，接着邀请她一起外出。为了能有私密的交流空间，护卫首领被王子调离。可很快马车就在行驶途中发生意外，担心会和外出返回继母撞上的安妮提出不行。不过也才只是走了半个小时，面前就没了路。安妮找了处高地勘察地形，而就在她确定完路线准备下来时，一群手持武器的盗贼出现。反应过来的王子起身和他们战斗在了一起。本想帮忙的安妮却是成为了对方的人质。
Let her go. Your quarrel is with me.
见到他如此仗义，首领命人放开了安妮。
I insist you return my things at once!
王子还在疑惑，两人都是空手来的，哪里有东西？
Milady, you may have anything you can carry.
只见他在众人惊愕的目光中走向王子，扛起后向首领微微一笑。
Oh, wait. Please, come back. I'll give you a horse.
有了这个插曲的出现，王子本来制定好的出游计划只能作罢。两人返回庄园时已经是深夜。
You saved my life, you know. Like there, in the woods.
A girl does what she can, sire.
他们约定了下次见面的时间地点后告别，可还不等安妮来得及开心自己和王子的距离终于又近了一步时，他外出的事情就被继母发现。借着脱离工作岗位罚薪水为由，他们拿走了安妮母亲为他留下的衣服。
These are my mother's!
Yes, and she's dead.
女人的话彻底激怒了安妮，她顾不得身份的差距和这样做的后果，只想着拿回母亲留给自己的东西。眼看着场面即将彻底失去控制，女人一把拿起安妮父亲留给她唯一的遗物——书籍和鞋子，她只能选择一样。最终，安妮妥协，将母亲留给自己的鞋子交了上去，但女人并没有遵守承诺，将书籍丢入了火炉中。安妮绝望的嘶吼，可这并没有换来继母的同情，反而她还因为抢夺东西遭到了鞭打。这件事的发生让安妮彻底认清了现实。 自己是一名失去了父母，如今被人当作女佣的现实。周日来了和王子约定的地方，他准备在今天将一切真相告知。
There is something I must tell you.
And are you?
不等安妮开口，王子就带着她去了别处。这片废墟是他小时候经常会来的地方。他讲述起那时的玩伴，可安妮的心思全然不在他的身上，一直在想着该如何开口说明身份的问题。只见王子缓缓走来他的身边。
Nicole, you are unlike any courtier I have ever met. Tomorrow at the mask, I shall make it known to the world.
Why did you have to be so wonderful?
不知为何，刚才在脑中已经组织好的语言在这一刻全部消失，他再也没了坦白的勇气。
I must go.
Nicole!
No.
与此同时，皇宫内，继母正带着女儿面见王后。她想通过讨好王后，让自己的女儿嫁入皇宫，可却听她说王子已经有喜欢的人了。
Do you know the Comtesse de Lancret? Apparently she's staying with a cousin, but nobody seems to know who.
继母仔细在脑海中搜索了这个名字，不确定的询问。
Nicole de Lancret?
这一刻，结合安妮的晚归，继母瞬间明白了一切，并没有着急揭穿安妮的平民身份。
Engaged?
I'm afraid so.
It's impossible. There has to be some mistake.
Baroness Rodmilla was quite reluctant to talk about it.
But it's no wonder with tidings such as these. You know, if she was betrothed, then she damn well should have had the decency to say something.
继母的谎言起到了作用，让王子心中对安妮的爱转化成了被欺骗的愤怒。返回的两人找到安妮，挑明了这件事儿，并将她关进了小黑屋，以防止明天的舞会上会出现变故。
Open this door, you'll wish you never set foot in this house.
转眼一天时间过去，参加舞会的人陆续到场，佣人们不顾自身想要为安妮打开房门，可仿佛继母考虑到了这点，将房门进行了加固。无奈之下，那名先前被安妮救下的老人找到了玩伴。得知这一消息后，他带着老师立刻赶了过来。只是3两下，他便通过拔掉荷叶打开了房门。
That was pure genius!
Yes, I shall go down in history as the man who opened a door.
得知几人是来帮助他会见王子的，安妮刚刚激动起来的心情就被浇了一盆冷水。自己只是名身份卑微的女佣。
The son of a peasant. What has that to do with anything?
I have deceived him.
The prince will understand.
Can I face him? A bird may love a fish, signore, but where would they live?
Then I shall have to make you wings.
Oh, come on, no time to waste. Louise, get the dress.
在女佣们的帮助下，安妮很快坐上马车出发了。台上的国王正在主持舞会的开幕，安妮一袭精灵打扮及时赶到，透过人群，王子一眼就注意到了她。顺着视线看去，所有人齐齐让出道路，王子快跑来到她的面前。
My mother said you were getting married.
She was misinformed.
不等安妮说清楚自己的身份，她就被王子拉着向国王走去。人群中的继母见到这一幕，从后方出现，撕扯掉了安妮衣服上的翅膀，接着在众人不解的目光中揭露了她的身份。
And she's been a servant in my home for the past 10 years.
Baroness, you are on dangerous ground.
Ask her yourself. She's a grasping, devious little pretender, and it is my duty, Your Highness, to expose her as a covetous hoax she is.
Tell these women who you are. Tell them.
哪怕是现在，他还是相信安妮之前并没有对他说谎。但见到他一副欲言又止的样子后，王子心中立刻有了答案，不敢相信的同时挪动脚步离开了这里。安妮伤心地向着外面跑去，抵达门口时摔倒，一只鞋子遗落在了地上。正好赶来的画家看到这一幕，他来到城墙上找到王子。
You're out of line, old man.
No, you are out of line. Have you any idea what that girl went through to get here tonight?
She lied to me.
She came to tell you the truth, and you fed her to the wolves. Then you don't deserve her.
说着，他就将手中的鞋子放到了一旁，然后转身离去。事情经过一天的发酵，安妮已经意识到自己和王子没有可能的事实，本打算就这样给继母打工一辈子，可继母却没有想着放过她。安妮被他卖给了附近猖獗的山贼，而被画家点醒的王子也通过别人的嘴巴了解到了安妮的成长过程。其实真正意义上，他并没有欺骗自己。安妮的确是贵族之后，只不过是头衔被继母霸占。从佣人口中得知安妮此时的处境。
Tell no one we have spoken, for all shall reveal itself in due course. Come, Laurent, there is much to be done.
王子带上了护卫队队长，他准备端掉这个山贼的老巢。此时的山上，安妮正被威胁做一些她不愿意做的事情。趁着山贼不留神，他抽出短剑，利用和父亲学习过的剑术，很快制服了他。面对生命的威胁，山贼还给了安妮自由。刚刚走出城堡大门，一个熟悉的身影就朝着这边而来。
What are you doing here?
I came to rescue you.
Rescue me? A commoner?
Actually, I came to beg your forgiveness. I offered you the world, and at the first test of honor, I betrayed your trust.
安妮转身露出微笑。
Perhaps you would be so kind as to help me find the owner of this rather remarkable shoe.
王子替安妮穿上鞋子。
Would be my wife.
开心的安妮跳起身，两人拥吻在了一起。故事的最后，继母因为欺骗王后被定罪，她求助地看向女儿，可女儿却一把将她推开，紧忙摘清自己的身份。就在她无助绝望时，
I will speak for her.
所有人纷纷跪拜，继母迟疑地转过身。
She is, after all, my stepmother. That I will forget you after this moment and never think of you again. But you, I am quite certain, will think about me every single day for the rest of your life. All I ask, your majesties, is that you show her the same courtesy that she has bestowed upon me.
继母从此被贬为平民，之前一直看不起的妓女会成为她一生的梦魇。电影至此结束。